Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a couple of things, just some comments, and you want to talk about some of the objections here today, some of the concerns. So the first thing is, I've heard the question, what is the reason for this bill? And the answer is term limits are very, very popular with the voters. About 80% of the voters believe in term limits. I mean, that's just, polling has been consistent, anywhere between 70 to 80%. So people believe in term limits. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's a need for this bill. The challenge here is that people are not going to impose term limits upon themselves. It is very rare when somebody will stand up and say that I am only going to run for 8 years and that is it. Okay. And if they do, they don't have to do that. I've had that happen in my county where somebody said they were going to run for 8 years and then decided to run another 4 years. So something like term limits, which is very, very popular, people are not going to choose to do it themselves. It's going to have to be imposed on them. And the only way we can do that is by general law. Now, when we start looking at the number, we start looking at the number 8 years because we all have 8 years here. Our cabinet has 8 years. That has sort of been consistent. So why should we set aside school board and county commission and make them different? If it works for us, it should work for them. And I would argue that it actually is working for them. And so the people who have charter counties right now that have 8 years, they're going through it. They have no problems with it. The argument against institution that you empower staff over the elected officials. I mean, if that's such a potent argument, and I would argue that it's an argument, but not a potent argument, not enough to vote against a bill like this, then why do they still have it? They're working. It's working in Miami-Dade. I believe Lee County may have, Brevard County has county commissions. It's working there. So why wouldn't it not work elsewhere? The concern about small rural counties, I understand, I hear you, but I don't agree. I vehemently do not agree, and here's why. Your smallest county is Liberty County, and it's around 8,000 people, right? That's still 8,000 people. If you can't find 5 people to serve on a county commission, I would argue that we're not looking good enough. And look, I was chairman of a major political party. It was my job to go out there and help find and identify some of these candidates. And for commissioner, we've been in the same room talking about this, where we're going to get commissioners for Wakulla County. We've had those conversations. And what I would do is I would bring up my own city of Brooksville. Now, obviously, it's not a county, it's a city. It's only 9,000 people. The people who are on that right now are rock stars, the city of Brooksville. So if a city the size of Brooksville can find good people who care about the communities enough to serve at very little money and do all the disclosures that they have to do, then there's really no excuse why other counties can't do the same. And that's where I believe that term limits will help find the next generation of people to go and serve. But without term limits, we're not having those forced conversations, Mr. Doolin, and that's what I was talking about. If you know that somebody is going to be termed out, you're having that conversation 4 years in advance, 6 years in advance, 2 years in advance, and develop those next generation of leaders to come up. But without term limits, you're not having those conversations. It's just an unfortunate byproduct of that. The thing that really, and I just want to make sure everyone understands, this is prospective. So if you've been in office for 8 years and you're worried about only getting another 8 years, I would say that you're probably serving too long. That's just me. But I cannot tell you how many times I have heard people campaign on the stump and say that they believe in term limits. I mean, heck, I can't speak for a Democrat primary, but I could speak for a Republican primary. In a Republican primary, if you say that you do not believe in term limits, the chances of you getting elected are pretty slim because it is a big litmus test. So it really bothers me when I see people campaign on the idea of term limits and get before a crowd of people that they're asking for their vote and state the reasons why they believe in term limits. But then when they get in office, all of a sudden, when it has to deal with them, all of a sudden, I don't believe in term limits anymore. Come on, I love you guys. I work hard for you guys, getting you guys elected, but that's a little hypocritical. So just want to put that out there. I think that term limits are good. And look, I'm a purist with this. When I was chairman of the Republican Party of Florida, I actually pushed for term limits for party officers. That's how much I believe in the idea of term limits. So I understand the arguments. I respect all the arguments. I respect the dissent. But term limits are a good thing. If the city of Brooksville can find 5 rock stars to sit on a city council, then surely counties, small rural counties, with 15, 18,000 people can find 5 people to serve and care about their community enough to serve on a county commission or school board. So with that, I'm more than willing to continue to have the conversation. I humbly ask for your support.